All right. Back again with the usual crew. I got PG with me. We got Jance. Guys, how y'all doing? Let the people know where they can find all of your stuff as I'm choking on water already. What a start to the live stream. PG, we'll start with you.
Yeah, y'all can find me on YouTube at the PG Show. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, there it is. Jance, what have you been up to, man? Where can the people find your stuff?
Man, I've been chilling, man. Chilling for the most part, working, man. Just excited for this football season. But find me at Jant716 on Twitter, Jant Sports on YouTube. It's gonna be an exciting season, man. I can't get away from it. I'm excited to be a part of the stream. It's been a while, man. Chat, how you been, family? How y'all been? I haven't seen y'all in a minute, but yeah, I'm excited to get back into it.
In fairness, bro, it's been a little bit of a journey for me as well. The studio changed, got married, went on a cross country road trip for the honeymoon, basically. So like, it's been a while since we've been back into the swing of things. But what better time to start than right now? Now, look, there's a lot for us to get into, but I think the cleanest thing is just to start with week 0, because I think this is going to be pretty easy to sort out, right? Week 0. I don't think there's much surprise, but I am interested in hearing from both of you, and I'd really like to start with this Notre Dame Navy game. I think, look, personally, I think Notre Dame's going to win the game. They're favored heavily, but my biggest questions are for Notre Dame. How do you deal with the loss of Tommy Rees? Because now you have hired your tight end coach who, look, the tight end at Notre Dame, they were doing really well, but what does that offense look like? And then how does this team continue evolving with Freeman? I'm excited for Freeman. Jance, I talked about this on the Through the Haze stream earlier today, but you and I have talked about this. Freeman is a guy that a lot of schools out there were trying to lift from Notre Dame to be a defensive coordinator for a long time now. Like, he's been a name in college football that teams have been trying to get. Now it's his team. I want him to do well. I know they don't have a quarterback that was on roster last year as a starter in terms of the 2 guys that started for them, but they're better off at quarterback, right? They got Hartman from Wake Forest. He came in there, instantly beat out Tyler Buckner. It's going to be his team. So my biggest questions for Notre Dame is, what does your offense look like absent Rees, and how do you keep moving forward under Freeman? If I look at Navy, my biggest question is how do you move on from the head coach? You know, Navy's one of those schools, guys, where they haven't had a ton of coaches. I think this is their 43rd coach. So it's one of those jobs where it's kind of like a steady, smooth ship. So, PG, we'll start with you. What are you thinking about week 0 in terms of A&M, in terms of Notre Dame, and in terms of Navy?
I just want some like absolute chaos in college football. But I mean, it's not an interesting week. I mean, like you said,
Don't you say that?
Notre Dame should be able to blow out Navy, even with. And now it is going to be interesting to see what Sam Hartman looks like. They lost Logan Diggs to LSU to the transfer portal. So I guess the question is, who's going to step up as running back 2, or I believe his name's Extisme, right? I think that's how you say his name. Does he take more snaps? Does he actually cross the 1,000-yard mark here? Like, does he look like he's going to be the number 1 guy in that running back room? I think that's kind of like some of the answers that you're looking for with Notre Dame. We expect a good defense out of them. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I'm looking for, but you're not really going to have any of those answers. It's Navy. You shouldn't struggle. I say that. And then Oklahoma went and struggled against, who was it? Army a couple of years ago. So I guess anything can happen.
Hey, those military school offenses. It's interesting because do y'all remember the NCAA games? Do you remember how if you would just sim them, how I don't know for y'all, but for me, the military academies, if you just simmed, they always would just like beat teams that they shouldn't beat.
The triple option offense was undefeated, man. That was the most overpowered formation in NCAA history. You couldn't stop it.
They didn't know what to do with it. So in fairness, that element, teams don't see it enough, but you're right, PG. This isn't going to be a contest. Jance, talk to me, man. What are you looking forward to?
I'm interested to see what Sam Hartman does. Obviously, he's one of the better quarterbacks in the country. I'm excited to see what he can do with Notre Dame. And then again, like Brian Newberry, let's see what he does with Navy. You know, Navy had I forgot what his name is, but they had that coach for almost 2 decades. I'm sorry, not 2 decades, but they had that old coach that was there for a while that had a lot of success. For a while, even got some top 25 appearances. So now you kind of get rid of him because Army's been taking over the rivalry. But now you add a guy like Newberry coming in who's got some experience running this type of system. I think Navy's going to be a little bit more modern, but we'll see what happens. We'll definitely see what happens. I definitely think that Notre Dame should blow them out. They should win this game by dominating fashion. They do got some experience coming back from their offensive line. I think their defense is going to be a little bit of a question mark. But overall wise, I'm excited to see, about this new age, this new element type of offense, because if Sam Hartman, who a lot of people believe that he could be that next great quarterback, at least for Notre Dame, a guy that could be one of the best out there. We're just gonna have to see what he can do. But again, he had a lot of success at Wake Forest. Hopefully, he can make that transition over to Notre Dame, man. But I'm expecting Notre Dame to blow out Navy for this contest.
Yeah, and look, I always think of this, and I'm interested in hearing from y'all on this, right? Because I think people view this differently. I look at weeks. If we're counting this as week 0, right? It is what it is. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to, for purposes of this argument, bleed week 0 into week 1. I look at week 1 through week 3 as our learning phase of college football, right? Where I'm really going to learn who this team is. Your first game, it's your first game. Your second game, you should be coming into your own, but you can still evolve a little bit. But after about your third game, most of the time you are who you are, right? Like you're not going to have sweeping changes, but I'm so interested in seeing Notre Dame early and as much as I can, because I can't wait for that Notre Dame USC game. I don't know why I can't wait for it so much, but I am so excited for that. And I think that's a perfect transition into the next game. You have USC San Jose State. Now, PG, you said something, and I'm going to piggyback off of it, because you said that we shouldn't find out anything about Notre Dame off of Navy. And you're right.
Find out about USC.
But if you're a USC fan, you're hoping you learn nothing about your defense this week. What I mean when I say that is this. You should go out there and crush San Jose State. Offensively, Caleb is going to put on a clinic. If you like college football and you like high-quality quarterback play, please be tuned in. He will put on a clinic. It will be spectacular to watch. That's going to be fun. But I said this earlier. If you're USC and you learn something about your defense against San Jose State, more than likely you learn something negative, right? You learned that your defense isn't where you thought it would be, because you should get out of this game with them scoring next to nothing and you scoring a whole lot. So for USC, I'm really excited, but we're not going to get any semblance of answers this weekend from the Trojans. Y'all's thoughts on that?
I disagree on the defensive side. I think you could learn a little bit from the defense. So San Jose State last year, they averaged 368.2 yards a game. And I think if you're USC and your defense is as good as you said it is, and you've made the acquisitions you should have made, you should be able to hold this team under 250 yards. Easy. And you probably shouldn't allow San Jose State to score because you have more talent. Now, give or take, San Jose State last year, they're returning their quarterback who threw, I believe, it was 200 yards. They have their second leading rusher or wide receiver coming back in Justin Lockhart. They have Kerry Robinson, their number 1 running back, coming back this year. So San Jose State on offense should be able to at least push the USC defense a little bit. So that's what I'm saying. If they come back, they hold San Jose offense under 250 yards, maybe only allow 1 score or no scores at all, I'm going to go, okay, maybe this USC defense, there's something there. But also, we got to take it for a grain of salt because, I mean, Oklahoma looked really good in the first 3 games last year, and then it was all hell broke loose after that. So,
fair point. Now, I guess, and Jance, question for both of you, but I'll direct it to you, and then PG, after Jance, you can take over. I guess a fair point on what San Jose State has offensively, but talent alone, shouldn't USC be able to handle that, Jance? Like you would think just talent alone, that'll overcome it.
I mean, it should. I mean, but again, we'll see what the game plan is when it comes to this defense, especially offense. I mean, like I said, offensively, they should be able to dominate. You got all the key pieces back. Your offensive line should be a little bit more experienced. You got Mario Williams. We'll see what Zachariah Branch is going to do coming from Bishop Gorman. He's going to be an absolute monster. Their backfield is absolutely loaded with 5-star talent. But yeah, I mean, defensively, this should be a top 30 defense on paper, based off of what they're returning back, especially coming back with now a second-year defensive coordinator, where you did see some improvement from the defense from the year ago. But I will say this: the last time they faced against a non-Power 5 team, they lost. So it'll be interesting to see if San Jose State can definitely push the team a little bit to the brink. Maybe USC's because it is week 0. This is the first team. You barely have any film on this team at all. You don't know what they're going to present. And for the most part, like I said, I don't think San Jose State is going to come in there and just be a complete pushover. Now, again, I'm expecting USC to win this game, but I do think it is concerning if San Jose State puts up, let's say, 28 or maybe even 30 points. I think that could be a little bit concerning, especially if it's not just, like pick sixes or stuff like that. It's literally just offensive, straight, drive, 80, 70-yard drives. That's going to be concerning at all because their interior, even though their edge presence was really, really good, I do believe they are missing both of their top edge rushers, especially losing a guy like Tulu to the NFL draft.
Yeah.
So they got to replace that production. Shane Lee, I think, is back. Shane Lee should be back, so he's going to provide some experience there. But your secondary unit still is a question mark. You do lose some veterans there as well. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. Again, their biggest weakness was interior pressure up front. But you got Bear Alexander, hopefully, who's
Anthony Lucas.
Exactly, and Anthony Lucas coming from A&M. So you got guys, you got 4 and 5 star talent that can get in there from day one and provide. But we'll see what happens. We'll see if they can synergize. We'll see if Bear Alexander can bring in that national championship caliber pedigree to this USC football program. But still, it's still a young team that still needs to. They still gotta get that coordination together. They still got to get that sync together. But overall wise though, yeah, USC should dominate. But it will be a concern though if San Jose State puts up 28, 30 points on that defense with those long drives. That would be very concerning. But it is the Pac-12. It's not known for having elite defenses. Most likely Utah will probably return back the number one defensive unit. But it is what it is. Will we see SEC ball? Most likely not. But we got to see. If USC wants to make that push and they want to make that national championship run, they got to have a top 30 defense.
Yeah, worst defense we've seen win a national championship in the modern era was, I believe, 58th in the nation, and that was that Auburn Cam Newton defense. They had Cam
with Nick Fairley.
Yeah, and in fairness, USC has Caleb, but Cam is Cam Newton. You know what I mean? Like one of the biggest enigmas in college football ever. Like
carried a 4-1 team on his back.
What he did to Bama that year was painful. Probably, Jance, I don't know how you feel. That to me is a tougher Bama loss than the kick six.
Yeah, it should have been a blown out. I turned the game off. I thought the game was over. It was 24-7.
Exactly.
I thought the game was over.
And then boom, there comes Cam.
And then Lynch Kirkin and
I try and forget. Let's hit some comments. Hank, you already know how I feel about Eric Gentry. I'm a sucker for a player that is multifaceted, right? It's why Williams Nwaneri, when I saw his film, instantly I was like, this dude is awesome. It's why whenever I saw Jahad Campbell for Alabama, so excited for what he can do, because you look at him and you're like, you can do a ton in this defense. Part of the reason why I'm already so excited for an Anthony Hill with Texas, because I was talking to someone I trust very much that covers Texas, and they told me they think he's their best third down pass rusher right now, Anthony Hill. He's an inside linebacker, but he is so gifted that he is going to be so much fun to watch. Eric Gentry is one of those guys. Really tall, really rangy, really athletic. I'm really, really excited to see what he does. Dude is a creative player. He actually absolutely is. And Jance, it's interesting you say that, because I've always wondered with Gentry's frame, if you couldn't get some scheme to rush him as a pass rusher, but I think he might be a little light for that. And I think you'd have to put something together pretty creative with a heavy front. And I don't know that Alex Grinch, absent Bear Alexander and Anthony Lucas, would have something. What do you think?
I see him more as I really see him more like as a 4-3 outside linebacker. Eric Gentry is a guy that could literally play multiple positions.
Yeah.
You could play him as that base pass rusher coming off the edge, but if I would do that, it would just be in multiple packages.
Exactly.
But that's a guy that his athleticism and his lateral movement goes. I mean, that's a guy that could play safety, right? He could play as that high safety if they want him to. That's just how athletic and that's just how freakish that dude is. But no, I mean, I see him kind of more as a base outside linebacker in my personal opinion. But no, I mean, for the most part, he should add that contribution. Should definitely have that contribution to that defense.
Brock says Caleb Downs. Just wait on it, folks. Brock, he was my the other day whenever we were talking about freshmen you can't miss. You already know he was on that list, as was Caden Proctor.
Oh, yep. Freshman All-American season coming.
Hearing great things about Caden Proctor. But, you know, he says, I heard Caleb was jumping routes in scrimmage. So, Brock, I've been doing a lot of content, of course, you know, with the Bama Standard guys, and they, some of them have access and stuff like that, and they say he's Himothy, right? Everything they wanted him to be, he has came. He is going to be so gifted, so gifted. But, you know, we're talking about some freshmen right now, and we'll get back on that, but I know what time it is. PG, you know what time it is. We have a 5-star.
Hold on.
Oh,
Before we move, I want to talk you guys into an upset scenario for USC tomorrow.
Oh, hey. I'm game.
And I'm not saying this is going to happen, so please do not take this to the bank, but
clip it.
It's a possibility. It's a possibility here. San Jose's defense last year was ranked number 33 overall. And I get you look at their schedule and they played in the Mountain West, so it doesn't blow you away, but they did lose to Auburn only 24-16. And they return a lot of their defensive starters. So we saw Caleb Williams struggle against the Tulane last year, and I get he was not 100%, but they were saying he was 90% going into that bowl game against Tulane. I mean, could this be one of the better defenses they see all season? Who's to say San Jose State doesn't come out there with the idea that they're one of the best defenses in the country and they could go out there and stop Caleb Williams? Just throwing it out there, wild, crazy idea. I was just kind of looking at those stats and looking at who they were returning. San Jose State might actually be a more underrated upset than what everybody I think is looking at.
Look, I think this is where I'm so interested and keyed in with Caleb, because last year you saw teams be like, okay, he's so good, he's killing us if we're not in a too high, right? Problem is if you go too high, he'll just take off on you. If Caleb starts developing what I believe he will develop this year, because of the development I saw from his freshman to sophomore year, if that continues from sophomore to junior, he's going to be tough to beat no matter what defense you throw out there at him. And Jance, you talked about a big reason why. When I look at their running back room, you look at guys like Raleek Brown, who can function as a running back, but I think is
all-purpose back.
Just as aptly qualifies as just an offensive weapon. You hit the nail on the head. And Lincoln's creative. There's going to be some fun plays here. Not only that, yet Addison is gone, but Dorian Singer was their leading wide receiver last year, and he's back. Plus, they have Deuce Robinson, plus Zachariah Branch, also on the freshman freak watch list. Yeah. How could he not be? Didn't he run a 10.27?
I think like either 10.3 or 10.4.
Did it? Okay.
Close.
Steven says Raleek Brown is on the roster as a wide receiver now. It wouldn't shock me. Him out the slot would be dangerous. I mean, he is electric.
Yep, because they started pushing more duties for Marshawn Lloyd. Marshawn Lloyd's getting a little bit more. I believe he's getting a little bit more bulk of the carries, which is still fine because he's a phenomenal pass protector. I love Marshawn Lloyd as a pass protector.
I hear you, PG, because the defense. Look, it's and Jant said it earlier. It's week 0. Nobody has any film on this current team. You have what you can go off of last year, and I think Van beat me to the punch. I think they just have so much on offense. It could be too much. The one thing we knew about Tulane is they had a really solid defense last year. They were a really good team as well.
Yeah, but this San Jose State team is a team that caused 38 sacks last year, and they created a ton of turnovers.
True.
So I'm just saying it's probably not going to happen, but San Jose State is proven in the statistics that this is something that they can do. So if they go out there, maybe cause Caleb down a little bit, shake him up a little. It's their first game of the season. I'm sure USC is going to have some rush to shake off. You never know. We could have ourselves another Appalachian State on our hands.
I will say this, PG, and this is from a debater's perspective. You've chosen the right path to argue this, bringing up, hey, this is where they've ranked. Tulane gave them some troubles, and they've caused a lot of headache for quarterbacks. Like, that's the correct path to argumentation here. I still would side with USC, but you bring up an interesting point. I didn't realize they were that efficient in getting to the quarterback. I'd be interested. Do you happen to know? And I mean, you might not, but if you could look, how effective were they at getting to the quarterback if there was a mobile quarterback?
So their schedule last year, Auburn. I mean, I don't really see any teams on here that had. I mean, that blew me off. Portland State, Western Michigan, Wyoming, UNLV, Fresno State, New Mexico State, Nevada, Colorado State, San Diego State, Utah State, Hawaii, Eastern Michigan. I mean, the best team they played was Auburn. So I don't know if Auburn had a mobile quarterback last year.
They did.
And it's 24-16, and that was at Auburn.
And Jordan Hare, interesting, because that place is cursed. Wow. So no, that's a really good point. That's a really good point. Something for people to think about. Yeah, that's a really good point. Look, I'm still picking USC.
I mean, Lincoln Riley has a history of choking the first game or, making it closer than it needs to be. So, I know we got some USC fans here. I'll point you back to 2021. Tulane comes to Norman, or was it 2020? Yeah, that was. I'm just pointing it out. It can happen to a Lincoln Riley team.
I'll say this for you. I don't know if you've convinced anybody that San Jose State will upset them, but I think you may have convinced some people that it could be closer than it should be, or closer than they thought it may have been.
That's what I'm saying. I think you can find out. Something about this USC team in week 0.
I will say this though: their offensive line, I think, has, and the USC fans, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong about this. They have 3 transfer offensive linemen.
Yeah, they did some work.
And you're trying to get that chemistry going. You're trying to get that continuity going. If Tulane, who's bringing back a majority of their defense, if they can create some stunts, if they can create some problems, create some havoc, especially in the interior, because that's kind of where a lot of that transfer is going, is really in that interior. If they can try to cause some havoc, again, maybe that lack of continuity, especially playing early in week 0, can cause problems, and it can cause some miscommunication where that defense, of course, has that experience to go ahead and try to at least get to the backfield and maybe cause some havoc to Caleb Williams. Now, it's Caleb Williams at the end of the day, because USC's offensive line was a little overrated last year, because even though for the most part he really wasn't sacked as much, a lot of it was, again, he was still one of the most pressured quarterbacks in the Pac-12 last year. It was just because it was Caleb Williams and how he was able to evade and how he was able to maneuver the pocket and especially just run around everywhere, that he was able to make the type of plays that 99% of quarterbacks, besides maybe Bryce Young, can make. So it's interesting.
30 times last year,
and he should have been sacked more.
Yeah, if it wasn't
he should have been sacked way more. So that's a little bit of a problem.
I think the biggest thing for USC fans understanding that San Jose State can get into the backfield and cause problems is you want Caleb Williams to come out of this game healthy. So
100%.
I mean,
100%.
Maybe
they like Miller Moss, but still, there's Caleb is Caleb, right?
Yeah.
Like the things he can allow your offense to do, frankly. And Jance, PG, correct me if you think I'm wrong, please do. I don't know that there's another quarterback in the nation that you're like, you can do all of the things that like Caleb can offer us.
No.
Yeah, there's some great quarterbacks. Don't get me wrong. Fantastic. Caleb has that magician in his gene. We saw Bryce have it last year, but Caleb has that same sort of like, just when you think the play looks the worst, I am going to be calm, cool, and collected and make a play that shouldn't work. Like, there's no way, but it does.
Yeah, I mean, but the last thing you want is for Caleb to get hit a couple times in this game, maybe be a little bit shaken up, and you're having to start your season with a quarterback that's been roughed up and maybe can't get healthy before you get into the brunt of your Pac-12 schedule.
No, we made a deal on the UT gear. And that's where that deal ends. I do have, in fairness though, Keaton, in fairness, I do have something Auburn in the studio, but it's not for the sake of something Auburn. All right. My dad was a Nebraska fan, mom an Alabama fan. But when Nebraska played in the 2007 Cotton Bowl, they played Auburn. So he took me to the game so that we could watch Nebraska beat Auburn. And it turns out Nebraska lost to Auburn. And that was not fun. I mean, it was great, but like not watching Auburn beat that Nebraska team. But it is what it is. But we do have a deal. Truth and I do. And Chance, I don't know if you were here for that. Truth and I have a little bit of a deal going on about week 2. If I don't know what happens if Bama wins. We haven't really established that. But if Texas wins, I have to do the show, the Red River Rivalry pre-show. I have to do it in full Longhorns apparel.
Oh, that's not bad.
That's not bad at all. That's fun.
So you can have the Quinn Ewers mullet.
Actually, bro, that'd be fun. That'd be funny. That'd be funny. No, that's a fun bet. I don't know what happens if Bama wins, but that's something I'm looking forward to. Plus, in the event Bama loses, at least I get a little bit of solace whenever we do the Red River Rivalry pre-show that I get to troll Chris. Right? So it's kind of like, it works. It works. But before we dive into the David Stone situation, PG, if I could do a quick pivot. Jance, it's been a long time since you've been able to be on the show. So let's talk some Bama, man. Let's quickly talk some Bama football. Quarterback situation, I've heard that it looks like it's shaking up. Don't know which direction it's shaking up, but if I had to guess, I'd say Jalen Milroe right now. Give me your thoughts on Alabama, everything we've heard, just your thoughts on Bama going into the season, man. Week 1 is a week away, and we'll have Bama football.
Man, the biggest concern I really have for this team is quarterback. Every other position group, I feel, again, there's some weaknesses. I would say receiver, once again, drops are still a concern. It still has been a concern during these scrimmages, and that's something that plagued this team last year. So the fact that we haven't had that clear number one receiver that's, clearly just dominating the practices or dominating the scrimmages is a little concerning. But everywhere else is that I do feel confident. I think this defense will improve. I think the interior defensive line over the last couple of years hasn't been as good as it used to be. But I definitely think for this year, I think depending on the defense that we run with Kevin Steele, I think it's going to be really, really nice there. Quarterback play, it's interesting. I would roll with Milroe, me personally, because for the most part, I know with Milroe, I got to focus on the athletic upside. I know that with Milroe, if, coming into the Arkansas game, the potential that he has displayed already. Of course, everyone will look at the A&M game and they'll absolutely kill Jalen Milroe for it. But we also have to understand A&M had one of the youngest defenses in the nation. They had one of the best pass rushing. They were one of the best pass rushing units, even though that they were extremely young in the entire nation. They are going to have that returning back all this year. So I think a lot of people are kind of underestimating just how good their defense was last year going against a young quarterback like Jalen Milroe. But there's no question about it, man. I mean, obviously he's got some weaknesses. Like I think number one, he's got to stay a little bit more calm in the pocket. He throws a little bit off foot at times. He doesn't really set his feet that much often for the most part. He can really rush a little bit into his throws. He doesn't really go into his progressions that often, but again, when you're playing in a Bryce-centric offense, that's going to happen. So I'm excited to see what Jalen Milroe does with Tommy Rees. I think Tommy Rees, he's not going to rush these quarterbacks into obviously running the offense that Bryce Young runs. I think he's going to keep it very simple. And I think it's going to be a little bit easier for these quarterbacks to understand. But, of course, they got to piece it all together. And that's something that we've been struggling right now through our scrimmages and practices is these quarterbacks just have to do it on a consistent basis in order for Nick Saban to have that approval of being that true guy. Now, one thing I don't want happening, and this will be the biggest concern if this does happen. If we have a quarterback competition by the time we play Texas, we're going to lose. The last time we did this was against Ole Miss. I don't want that to happen again. And then all of a sudden we figure out who our quarterback is, and by the time that happens in the second half, the game's already over. I want this done before week 1, if possible. If we got to do it week 1, then I want that guy to clearly stand out during that performance. But everywhere else on the football field, I have no concerns about. I think our secondary is going to be much more improved. Getting guys like Jalen Key and the rest of those guys in the secondary is going to make this defense a lot only better. I think Malachi Moore playing in his natural position is only going to make him a lot better than what he actually is. Caleb Downs is an absolute dog. I like Kool-Aid McKinstry playing on the opposite, playing at that boundary corner. I think he's going to be great there. And then people are concerned about our inside linebackers, but I'm not whatsoever. Matter of fact, they actually have way more upside. 4, maybe 5, if you think about it. If you think, exactly. Maybe 5 if you think about the amount of 5 stars that are right there. But no, I'm not concerned at all. This is this is going to be a much more aggressive defense. Again, you got Jahad Campbell, you got Deontay Lawson right there as well. You have a lot of dogs, man. You got a lot of dogs that are just waiting to swallow up the chomp. So I'm excited overall to see what this defense can do. I would just say again, my only huge concern, the glaring concern right now, is quarterback play. But that's just finding a guy that can be a little bit more consistent. Everywhere else, I do think this defense and this offense will be fine.
So I echo a lot of what you say, but there is one area I don't worry about the talent, right? No. And you probably know where I'm going when I say this. And
defensive
Eric,
line.
No. But I think there is a conversation to be had about the defensive line, and I will have it. Eric kind of beats me to it. He says, wide receiver is not a concern. The thoughts are that if a pass gets dropped, everyone overreacts. Bama's going to be very, very good at wide receiver. I don't doubt the last part. Bama is going to be very, very good at wide receiver, because if I look at the talent in that room, there are a few names I can point to that I'm like, man, I think they are so gifted. Eric, I was told by someone who was either at the scrimmage or talked very closely with someone who was at one, that drops were an issue. That it wasn't just something overblown. That they
led the SEC in drops. They led the SEC in drops last year. And the fact that issue is still continuing to happen is what's the real issue? Was it the offense, or is it the personnel that we have right now that's just not getting it right?
Yeah. And it could be, Eric, that you're right, that maybe it's not as many drops as people are saying, right? Maybe it's not that they're dropping every pass, but there are still too many. And I think one of the reasons why people are frustrated is because how gifted they are. Because we know if a guy like Bond or Benson, or if they get the ball in their hand, they have the ability to create magic, absolute magic. But it has to be caught first. So ultimately, I'm not as worried about Alabama's quarterback situation. I'm more worried about the offensive line situation, and worried's a strong word, but you get what I mean. Like if you have me rank the priority, offensive line is going to be my number 1, just because I think Tommy Rees is going to want to establish a power run game, right? And so offensive line has to be able to afford Alabama that opportunity. Outside of that, will the wide receivers be able to capitalize on the moments as they come? If they do that, I think all the quarterbacks have something. However, this is something I thought about the other day, and I've said this now all this week. Nick Saban has asked for one thing, Jansen. It's been consistency. If we get down to brass tacks here, there's one quarterback on Alabama's roster that if everything is failing, he offers a beacon of consistency that nobody else does. That's Jalen Milroe's athletic ability, right? That if everything is going wrong, we can't complete passes, Jalen Milroe has something nobody else on the roster has. And I will say this, do not sleep on Dylan Lonergan. I don't think he will win the job. I think it will be Jalen Milroe. But the hype you have heard about this true freshman, it's real. They're very impressed, really impressed with Dylan Lonergan. They are really, really excited about his future. I'm hearing that we are 8 deep at the offensive line position, 8 dependable guys. Yeah, no doubt. Eric, when I said concern, it was more of a thing of like what needs to happen. And in terms of what needs to happen, I'm not as worried about the quarterback situation. I need the offensive line to be that typical Bama offensive line so that the offense can do what Reese wants it to do. But I do agree with you. I think the offensive line is going to be a lot of fun. Now, defensive line, Jance, is where I think I want to talk a little bit before we move on, because Alabama had something happen this offseason that didn't get reported a whole lot. But it was a blow, and that was the exodus of Jamil Burrow, right? It wasn't talked about all that much, but that was a blow to the depth that this defensive line had. The defensive line, I like the names such as a Boygby. I think he's going to be in for a monster season. And Jaheim Otis, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know the name Jaheim Otis, know it. If you told me to give you sophomores that will have huge seasons, Jaheim Otis would be one of the first names out of my mouth. Jans, how much weight did he lose in a span of 4 months?
I think 70 pounds.
Yeah. I mean,
no, I'm sorry. Yeah, right. 70 or 80 pounds. He was like 450 and dropped it all the way down to like 360 or 370 or somewhere around that mark.
His dedication to the grind is unmatched. Like that, he is a dog through and
He's 320.
through. He is a dog through and through. He is really excited. But then you have some guys that definitely need to step up. Right. I'm looking Tim Smith, who has the veteran presence. Keenan, thankfully, he's been stepping up. Jamarian Latham, right? Names. Justin Smith, true freshman.
Damian Payne.
Boom, former 5-star. What are you thinking along the defensive front? Because you pointed it out. That has been an area where Bama went from having 2 or 3 guys all the time on the defensive line, where it was like, that is the guy you got to worry about, to keeping one. Right, where it was the one guy on the defensive line where you were like, that's a dude. Boygby looked like it was going to be his year last year before the neck injury. Thankfully, he's back. So talk to me about the defensive line. I am excited for them, but it is an area where I really want to see Alabama continuing developing that talent.
Yeah, and this is and if this defense wants to take major strides, this has to be the unit. This has to be the unit, and they need to rotate, make sure to keep guys fresh, but just have a nice string of rotation. I think we've lost our quality of depth. Even though we've gotten 5 stars, I don't know if we've particularly gotten the right particular players to play at that high of a role. They might have gotten that nice floor, but they didn't really have the ceiling that we've seen from past Bama players. I'm interested to see what this defensive line can do. Obviously, again, you just mentioned the names. I think James Smith could be is a guy with an extremely high ceiling. From what I've heard, he is as quick as advertised. But no, Justin Agbobi showed a lot of promise last year into that neck injury. I thought during that Texas game it was spectacular. I think that again, when you look at a player like Otis, a guy that can clog up those lanes and take around 2-3 blockers at a time and just hold his own and allow other players to really have those opportunities. He played a pivotal role into this defense last year. Just needed to stay a little more consistent, but from a freshman All-American standpoint, he was really, really good there. But yeah, you need these other players to step up. We need to go 2-3 deep instead of just having to be extremely reliant on one particular player in the rotation. Having a guy like a Fedarian Mathis or a Christian Barbour or Quentin Williams, that's something that we just can't really have that much anymore. We got to have more guys step up their game, be more included into the rotation. I think Justin Agbobi can be that guy. I think Tim Smith has had the highest upside maybe out of any player on this roster. The problem though is just the lack of consistency. There will play again very similar to Byron Young, how there will be plays where he's flashing on your screen, he's blowing up the play, and then there are other plays where he's literally getting washed down the line of scrimmage. So that's something that he just has to get better because he's too big, man. He's too big to be getting washed up down the field on almost every play. He's got to do a lot better than that. He's 6'4", he's 330. He's not a fat 330. He's a slim 330, right? He's a very, very good guy, man. So this defensive line has got to be better because again, if this defensive line can live up to the hype, that's going to free up opportunities from our linebackers, from our inside linebackers to come up the point. And from again, I'm excited to see what that group potentially does with the amount of speed, athleticism, and most importantly, the amount of power. Guys that are not afraid to step up in those trenches in order to clog up those run lanes, unlike a certain linebacker that we know that's no longer on this roster. So I'm excited to see what this defensive line can do. I think that this defensive line does have the size and it does have obviously the upside, the athletic ability to play up there, but they got to step up their game. If it's going to be like how it is the last couple years, there's going to be some concerns and there's going to be some games where obviously offensively we're going to get picked apart. So it's all up to this defensive line.
Absolutely. 2 more areas I want to hit on. One, I don't know how much we need to even touch on because I think we're going to just largely agree. Tight end room for Alabama. I don't know if I've been as excited for an Alabama tight end room as I am this one. I mean, genuinely, if you told me, Ty, give me a unit for Alabama that could be in contention for superstar unit on the team, it could be the tight end room. Right. I mean, you have Nye Black, you have Danny Lewis, you have Dipree, you have Oots, you have the kid that transferred in before that as well.
Dupree?
Still there. No, before Dipree. Oh boy. Oh boy, another tight end they have. But you get the point. Frightening says Bama's going to play 12. I would expect some 12 Frightening because, and this is Danny Lewis is an incredibly balanced tight end. Very, very balanced. But Nye Black, that dude is a legit, like, I think he's going to be different. He is I'm not comparing him to this person, but you'll get what I mean. You knew it was different a few years ago when Alabama had a tight end that was on kickoff return, returning kicks. Billingsley, when they would put him back in the kick return, Jance, you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
That's when you knew, like, oh, that's a tight end. That's different. I'm not saying they'll do that with Nye Black, but I'm saying he's got that type of different athletic ability when it comes to being a receiving threat at the tight end position. He is a mismatch through and through. I'm really interested to see how they get him involved, but that gets me into the secondary. Chance, this secondary is going to be fun, man. This secondary is going to be so much fun. You have Jalen Key, who transferred in. You have Trey Amos, who transferred in. You have Caleb Downs, who not only Nick Saban has been so high on, you had publications saying he's one of the greatest safety prospects they've seen. That's how gifted he is. The secondary is a lot of fun to think about, man. Talk to me about what you're excited to see there.
Man, I'm excited. I'm more excited to see what Jake Pope can do since he's looking like Mark Barron during that spring game. So,
boy,
Jesus. I mean, I'm excited to see overall the depth. Like I said, you mentioned the name Trey Amos, Jalen Key. I mean, one of those. I mean, I think Amos could be playing outside, right opposite of Kool-Aid. So that's going to be interesting to see what happens. Devontae Smith, man, has been a surprise. He's been stepping up his game all throughout camp. So that's a really, really cool story because I think a lot of people kind of forgot that Devontae Smith was even on the roster. So the fact that he's trying to get his name out there and he's trying to see some additional time and he's been one of the best players during fall camp that's a phenomenal surprise. But it's great. It's more added depth. There's more added competition. The second out of all the groups that I think have just been the fiercest, and it's kind of been the most, it has been just been the feistiest. I would definitely it would be the secondary because I think they know the last 2 years, the last really 4 to 5 years, the secondary has not lived up to the par or not lived up to the standard that we think that the secondary can be. I think that a lot of these players take great pride in trying to get the secondary back because last year was just tough. I mean, it was tough, man. I mean, DeMarco Hellams looks like an all-pro for the Atlanta Falcons right now. But all of a sudden, you turn the Tennessee game, and he's just getting absolutely burnt by Jalen Hyatt on one route. So it's stuff like that. It was the miscommunication issues. It was missed tackles, missed assignments, and it was just constant. It was a constant for the last 2 years, and just hopeful, man, that everything's going to get straight now. No, but I'm excited to see what the secondary can do. I'm more excited about the depth. Des Ricks, has been a little bit competitive during camp. He's been very fun. From what I've heard, he's been one of the, a guy that's looking for playing time and not just talking about it. He's, doing his best, doing his due diligence on the field. So, man, I'm excited to see what the secondary can do. I think that the secondary is going to be a much more improved unit going into it. And like I said, Kool-Aid should be a shutdown guy coming on the opposite side. It's going to be fun seeing a game against him against Worthy. That's going to be a fun battle. During that week 2 game against Texas.
The wide receiver DB matchup for Texas, Alabama. I am so excited. I'm going to have to rewatch that game multiple times because during the game, it's going to be real tough for me not to instantly watch the DB wide receiver battle, and just hyper focus on that.
Yep.
But here's what I will say, because it is time for us to move on to the David Stone talk. I did want to hit this comment because it made me laugh. Odd Future said, I was today years old when I found out Bama has another Devontae Smith on the team. And Odd Future, in my mind, how I imagined you whenever Jance was saying that is you were laying on your couch, chilling, unwinding after another long day. And you got up just like the Undertaker in that meme when you heard Devontae Smith as a Texas fan. And you were like, wait, who's had a good camp? They have who back? Because, yeah, if we had Devontae Smith back, I'd be much happier about the state of the offense. But no, the other Devontae Smith on defense, guys, really talented safety. really cerebral player. Excited to see what he can do, but it is that time. Football is back, guys, but one of the beautiful things about this channel is we cover everything about football. You want the drama. We don't focus too much on the drama, but hey, I can't help but get involved in some silliness, right? I find that there's a peak threshold of silliness, and after the drama passes that threshold, that's when I'm summoned, right? Like there are a lot of people who will talk about it, and then the peak threshold of silliness happens, and then here comes time. But we also focus on recruiting. That's been one of my favorite aspects. And tomorrow, there's a recruiting battle coming to a head that for a year on this channel, Oklahoma fans have told me, you know, we're in it for this guy, we're in it for this guy, but David Stone, Ty, 2024. That's the name. The day is tomorrow. PG, talk to us, man. How you feeling?
I mean, it's a roller coaster of emotions because this is the guy that, you know, we've for so long thought Oklahoma is for sure going to land. It's a slam dunk, and we've had to ride this out all the way up until this point. And Miami has definitely been surging, and although I still like Oklahoma, there's still that doubt in me, and I don't know if it's because we've lost David Hicks, Williams Nwaneri, Gabriel Brownlow, Dindy, Overton, all of these guys. I don't know what it is. There's just a part of me that goes, there's a good chance this might not go our way tomorrow. And that's saying a lot because we got Jaden Jackson on campus. You know, Jaden Jackson was going to be the guy that wanted to play with Stone. And, you know, a lot of people believe he committed because Stone was coming here. But, you know, what happens if Stone doesn't come to Oklahoma? I mean, it literally might be one of the biggest losses Oklahoma's probably ever had on the recruiting trail. You lose a 5-star defensive lineman, a top 10 player that has came out of your state. Yeah, he's playing at IMG Academy, but he's from here. He's lived his life here. And not to mention, if you lose him, and he loses to Miami, is there the potential that Jaden Jackson maybe slips away? You know, so it's like you really start to question, like, is the staff able to get the job done? Like, if you lose David Stone, I think we really start to ask ourselves that question, because David Stone should have just been that home run hit. He should have been that guy you landed. Now, as Alabama fans, I know you guys probably are a little bit more used to this because you guys have had 5-star defensive linemen and your state not go to Alabama. It's just not something normal that we see in Oklahoma. So I'm picking Oklahoma. I feel like there's enough there for Oklahoma to be the pick. I mean, when you look at the unofficial visits, I mean, I think On3 has him listed at 14, but he's probably been there at least 25, 30 plus times. I mean, you know, growing up here, going to games, things like that. You've heard him say that he tried to commit to Oklahoma, but his mom talked him out of it. His mom wants him to go here. I mean, when you look at the facts, it looks like it should be Oklahoma, but there's just a small part of my gut that says, man, this might not go our way. And so when I tell Sooner fans, like, the pick is Oklahoma, that's what I think it's going to be. But don't be shocked if it's Miami. It's not me hedging it. I'm just saying, you know, it's a possibility. It's still out there. It's not going away.
Jance, what are your thoughts, man?
It's going to be fun to see. Is he making his announcement at the game?
He's making his announcement at the game. I think it's
okay.
I've heard halftime, I've heard pregame, and I've heard after the game. So honestly, who knows at this point?
Okay, so hopefully, so if he does that, I'll see it. So that'll be a cool reaction. But no, it's gonna be fun, man. It's gonna be fun to see what happens with David Stone. Miami has been pushing extremely hard. It seems like almost everybody from the 305 from Dade County believes he's going to go to Miami. If you go to the Twitter spaces, it's been absolutely unreal how much they've made fun of Oklahoma fans. But you know, that's no here, no there. But no, I think for the most part, I think he's going to stick with Oklahoma. I think the family ties, I think the overall close ties, the fact that he's from there, he's been hot on Oklahoma's radar, and he's been for the most part focusing a lot more on Oklahoma and posting so much content and talking about them all throughout interviews for, I don't know, since he was a freshman or a sophomore in high school. So this is a guy that I think for the most part, I think he's going to continue with it. I think Miami is pushing, and I think they're pushing extremely hard for him to go there. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But I think my gut's telling me he's going to go to Oklahoma. My gut's telling me he's going to go there. I think, again, he's one of those guys that, he's talked about in the past how he wants to be someone that wants to change the culture. And right now, Oklahoma, they're looking for an identity right now. So I think Oklahoma would be the best place. It would be honestly a great story for just a homegrown kid to kind of go there and really change life right back to what Oklahoma used to do. And that's, winning, a bunch of games and competing for Big 12 titles and national championships. That's a guy that could potentially restore that foundation there. So I think he's going to go to Oklahoma. If he does choose Miami, it would be a little surprising to me, only because I think looking at the state of Miami right now and the stuff that's going on with their university, I just don't think that it's the best time for players to commit there right now. But I think my gut's telling me he's going to go to Oklahoma.
Yeah, and I see the questions in here, will he end up visiting Alabama? I don't know. I mean, it seems like he's really dead set on taking that official visit, but we all know BV's policy. You're not going to take official visits once you're committed. So, my gut would say if he's committed to Oklahoma, he's not visiting Alabama. But we saw David Stone tweet out again earlier that, he's about to shock the world. Well, is he going to shock the world because Oklahoma finally landed a 5-star interior defensive lineman? Or is he shocking the world because he's about to commit to Alabama and Miami and Oklahoma are out of it? I mean,
well, it'll be good for me. Suck for you.
Yeah, Ty will go crazy tomorrow if that happens.
Look, I'm good either way, right? Because wherever he commits, Bama's going to keep chipping away. That's what they do, right? And they should. David Stone, every school in the nation, if you have a need at defensive line, keep chipping away. He's that good, right? Why wouldn't you? You have nothing to lose. Now, this is a comment right here that I want to unpack a little bit, PG, and I want to hand it to you, right? Because Eric says moms matter. Talk to us about that. What you think about this comment, because for those that know, there's some layers to this comment.
Honestly, I've thought about this a lot. What if the whole mom not wanting him to be at Oklahoma thing is just a total ploy to try to throw people off and cause drama?
It's the NIL era.
Would that shock you at all? It wouldn't shock me, but I've kind of thought about that. But if it's true that his mom really does not want him in Oklahoma, at some point she got to let the boy grow up and spread his wings. And the staff ain't going to let him get in trouble. I mean, they're not going to let their prized possession get into trouble. So I'm not saying mom does not matter, but at some point or another, David Stone's got to say, you know what? This is my pick. This is where I want to go. I know you might want to be in Florida, but I want to be here. This is where I have the best relationships. This is where I feel the most comfortable. I want to play for my dream school.
I seem to remember a famous Hall of Fame level head coach who coached for the Louisiana Mud Dogs. Y'all remember who the Louisiana Mud Dogs are? Well, he said, what mama don't know, don't hurt her, right?
My mama say it.
Look, this is interesting because family is a dynamic here that matters, but at the same time, and Eric, you are right, which is why I wanted to unpack this. Family does matter. But his sister goes to OU. So if it was that big of an issue, look, and I get it, maybe it's something else, but if OU was that big of an issue, I don't know that the sister would be there, or at least if the family viewed OU as that much of an issue, why would the sister be there? Look, here's what I do know, right? Because I've always said this, and I will always say this. I'm not an insider. I don't particularly want to know where a kid's going to commit. I mean, sometimes I know, but I'm not here to tell anything. These kids have their moment. That's for them to announce. I'm just here to read the tea leaves because it's fun for me. That's what's fun about this, is reading tea leaves. He's visited OU a lot on his own accord. A lot. I know we talk about a lot. Like an inordinate amount of times.
Probably 30 plus.
Yeah. Like so much to where it would be perplexing if he doesn't go to OU. That to me is the thing, guys. If he chooses Miami, it's going to be more confusing, not because of anything to do with Miami, because let's unpack this now. Let's be as objective about this as we can. What do we know about Miami? They have Mario Cristobal, who's a hell of a recruiter. He is. He was a hell of a recruiter at Oregon. He's a hell of a recruiter at Miami. They have Jason Taylor helping coach that defensive line. The Jason Taylor. The guy. Like Hall of Fame, Jason Taylor just got done coaching at American Heritage. Jason Taylor.
Not Mason Taylor.
Not Mason
Taylor from LSU, not him.
No. Thank you for clearing that up. Jason Taylor. That's a tough pitch to say no to, much like I always talk about how Oklahoma has DeMarco Murray. And if DeMarco Murray walks in a living room, like, how do you undermine his pitch? Truly. Like, what do you say to DeMarco Murray's pitch? He was a high school running back who was highly sought after, who went to Oklahoma, had a phenomenal career, who went to the NFL, had a phenomenal career. And now he's shown he's a really, really good running back coach. There's nothing you can do to undermine that pitch. Jason Taylor is sitting here saying, first off, I have a gold jacket. Second off, I mean, did I mention I have a gold jacket? Look, that's real, right? Like, it's
38 sacks, career sacks, 7-time All-Pro. Come to my university.
The problem is Miami's a bigger turnaround than Oklahoma is. I think Miami's a bigger dumpster fire. And so for David Stone to go there, I think the process for Miami to be better is several more years. By the time David Stone gets onto campus, Oklahoma could have already fixed their defensive issues and be in the top 30. Adding a guy like David Stone and maybe a couple other elite defensive linemen in this class, you're talking maybe top 20, top 15 defense, do I dare say?
Yeah. But, and here's another thing. Jance pointed it out. If he's trying to help a team find an identity, he can do that at Oklahoma. I'll tell you who else doesn't have any semblance of an identity right now. You think Oklahoma's in trouble? Ladies and gentlemen, you don't know trouble. Did you watch Miami last year? I'm not trying to be funny, bro. They lost to Middle Tennessee State University. Like, I like Mario Cristobal. I like the guy. I want them to do good. College football's better with Miami. They lost to Middle Tennessee State. Like, they need help. They need major help.
I wouldn't say Oklahoma is trash too. I mean, I think you saw glimpses last year where Oklahoma's defense was starting to be better, but as BV said it, they just didn't have any legs after the third game. Like, and that was their fault. That was a coach's error. So I don't know. I think you get David Stone on the team. I think he drastically changes the direction of this program. One, because you end the curse of not being able to land a 5-star interior defensive lineman. Because we've got PJ Adebayor last year, but I'm talking interior guys. You end that curse. Then David Stone is a well-known guy on the recruiting trail amongst a bunch of recruits. OU's still in it for Jordan Seaton. So that's a guy that David Stone has to match up with in practices. Jordan Johnson-Rubel specifically said he wasn't giving Oklahoma the time of day because of their defense. Well, a guy like David Stone, one, might change that narrative. And two, if Oklahoma goes out there and has a good season, again, another teammate of David Stone that he could try to flip from Texas to Oklahoma. I think David Stone brings guys with him to Oklahoma outside of what Oklahoma is already going after or already has.
I will say this, though. Miami's secondary is legit. That secondary, they legit have two freshman. They have not freshman Americans. They have two All-American players on that safety with James with Williams and the rest of those guys there. And then you got Leonard Taylor, who's another Taylor, who's one of the best defensive linemen in the country. So I mean, I don't know, man. When your defensive line coaches are Jason Taylor and Sylvia, who is one of the best coaches especially when it comes to getting defensive linemen and more particularly Samoans and Polynesians. I mean, it's tough. It's gonna be tough, man. But no, again, he should go to Oklahoma. But no, Miami they got some credibility. They got some guys that can definitely go in there and get some top prospects.
What an ironic time.
The
man, the myth, the legend, saying, "What's up, everybody? Always got to come in here and listen while I'm working on graphics." And we're probably talking about one of the graphics you're working on, David Stone, because look, top 10 player in the nation, number 2 defensive lineman, unbelievable talent. Plays for IMG. This is going to be a battle everybody's watching. And actually, the gentleman down below, Jance, will be at the game. I knew I should have gone to New York this weekend when my mom tried to get me to come out
ESPN,
there.
ESPN. I'm gonna look fly, man. I'm gonna look fly. I'm gonna get my Bama gear going. My swag. I'm gonna be on it. I'm gonna be on that. I'm gonna be on that TV, man.
I will say we're talking about David Stone, but Hayes Fawcett needs to go ahead and hurry up and drop that Grant Bricks graphic. That's what I need. That's what I need.
Hey, Hayes, thank you so much for coming in here. As always, man, super humbling to have somebody like yourself that watches the show, listens to the show. That means a ton because, I mean, let's be honest, this is one of the most recognizable names in college football and college football recruiting. What you have built is unbelievable. So awesome for you to be in here. Very happy you're here with us this
evening.
evening.
Take advantage of it on this kind of level. I mean, think about it. I mean, everybody wants, any recruit wants a Hayes graphic. I mean, which, by the way, I love the cartoon style look that he puts on these on the guys. I think that's cool. But yeah, no, like the ability to capitalize on something that probably started out as small to be as big as it is now. I mean, that's incredible.
Aaron says that OU graphics fixing to go so hard tomorrow. Hey, that would be awesome.
We need some anime style graphics from Hayes, man. If you make some anime style, man, I'll be pretty dope.
Some like Naruto stuff or
Hayes, if the day ever
Naruto,
comes,
Demon Slayer type stuff.
If the day ever comes where I get picked up by a publication and I get to actually do this as a career, can you do my commitment graphic? Because that would be so cool. I swear to God, I'll fly you out. We'll shoot a video, man. We'll go for the whole thing. We'll have a whole commitment edit through the Hayes for real. Through the Hayes for real. Eric says Cotton Nick Saban can flip any kid from any. Yeah, it's Saban. He's an incredible recruiter. You already know. Hey, my man, if it happens, I already know I'm hitting you up because that'd be awesome. My half brother does some video editing for. Hey, look, it's all coming together. Look at this. Don't you just love when you put things out into the world and they start to manifest? Look at this. The commitment video is already coming up.
Now, you said this. Does that mean there's something on the horizon?
No. I wish. But hopefully one day there will be something. But appreciate you being in here, man. Hank says Peter Woods is still at Clemson. No, look, Eric, you're right. Nick Saban has got the recruiting ability like very few others have. He can walk in. What I will say is this. If you have a kid who's committed to your school and Nick Saban gets the last visit, Nick Saban gets the last word, you don't feel comfortable. I'm not saying you panic, but there is that little spidey sense that's going off in your head that's like, man, why is it Saban? That doesn't mean that he will flip anybody because you're right. Peter Woods is at Clemson. And by the way, Hank, I don't know if Bama fans want to hear this, but he looks like he's going to be unbelievable with them. You ready to watch Ryan Williams on ESPN here in 15 minutes? I can't wait. I can't wait for him to be on campus. That dude is so otherworldly gifted. I just hope they keep both those 5 stars for that next cycle, Jamie French and Ryan Williams, because if Bama can hold on to both of them, that Bama wide receiver room is going to be dangerous. Yeah, we need it. Need it. But he can flip. He can get into any living room, and that's interesting. Right? At the very worst, getting into any living room, that's an ability in and of its own right. And that's powerful. PG headed out to the Carl Albert game. But guys, that's about it for us this evening. Jance, let the people know where they can find all of your great content.
Yeah, find me at Jance716 on Twitter, especially if you want to try to hit me up or, try to do something. Definitely hit me up over there, Jance716. And then, of course, YouTube season, college football season, NFL season. I can't wait for it. Catch me at Jance Sports. It's going to be an exciting time. And then we're also trying some new things out as well. We got some things in the works that I'm extremely excited to do. So definitely check me over there.
Love it, man. Super glad you could hop on with us this evening. Guys, we'll be back tomorrow for the David Stone commitment. Then through the Hayes Monday morning, we'll have the Monday evening live stream. A lot of content coming next week because, well, college football is back and we have a ton to talk about. Thank you for spending your Friday evening with us. Hayes Fawcett, thank you for giving us the time of day, always interacting in the chat. That means a lot to me. I know it means a lot to chat. it's just super humbling to have you in here, man. But guys, with that being said, enjoy your weekend. Enjoy college football. You already know Monday we're going to be here to talk about it all. That's it. See ya. Spinning Wheel of Doom.